In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a new rainbow loom charm that I'm calling Puppy Love. So it will be a dog charm, and I've chosen to make it white and red since it's getting near Valentine's Day. And you're going to need one loom, and you want to have it set up in a rectangular shape so that all the pins are in line with one another. And you want to take your smallest blue connector pieces and move them to the ends of your loom. We're going to be working with a length of 10 pins, so you want to have all that area open so your charm will be able to grow down through this open area. And also you want to have the arrows facing towards you so that all of the open ends of these pins is facing you so that you'll be able to use your hook to reach inside and pull the bands over the top. So to begin our first band placement, you're going to find the left side of your loom and you're going to count up to the 6th pin over, and that's where we're going to put our first band. So I have a red band for the nose and I'm going to double it, so I'm going to just put it on my hook and wrap it around a second time and then pull it down so it's caught on the hook part, and I'm going to go to that 6th pin up and I'm going to put the band around this 6th pin, and then I'm going to stretch it up and diagonally to the right and twist. And then I'm going to push that down, and now I want to cross back over that band, so I'm going to go to the next pin above. Again, I want to double this band, and this time I'm going to go diagonally back down to the left and twist. And then push that down. So that is the nose of the dog. And now I'm going to put 2 layers of white bands on, just single bands. So again, I'm going to start on this left side, on the bottom row, and stretch up and diagonally to the right. There's no need to twist anymore. And then I'm just going to cross back over it. And then once again, I'm going to put on another layer of white, again starting on the left pin and going up, and then again crossing back over it. And now I have 3 layers on these 2 pins, and I want to remove this bottom layer of red, and it's going to be 2 bands on all of the pins since it was a doubled band. So I'm going to grab them on my hook, pull them out and over the top. I'm just going to go up to the next 2 red bands and pull them over the top, flip to the back side and do the same thing. Get the 2 red bands, and then finally on the last pin do that same thing. And then I'm going to push this down. And now from here I'm going to expand out. So from these 2 pins I'm going to go out 1 on either side. I'm going to be working with white again, and every time we expand out we have to twist this bottom layer, because if there's nothing underneath of it, that means it's a bottom layer. So I'm going to start on this pin here. It's now going to be the 5th pin in from the left side of the loom. I'm going to stretch that up and diagonally to the right and twist. And now I'm going to work my way up in a zigzag pattern. So next I'm going to go diagonally up and to the right, and then from here I'm again expanding out to the next pin above, diagonally up and to the right, and again I need to twist since there's nothing underneath. And now I'm just going to work my way back down. So I'm going to go to this pin below, and I'm going to come diagonally up and to the left and twist. And now I'm going to come down and to the left diagonally. And then finally I'm going to come up and to the left diagonally, and once again I need to twist. And then push all of this down. And now I want to remove the bottom white band from each of these pins. So I'm actually going to be removing 2 bands from all of these 4 center pins. So I'm going to grab this bottom white band and pull it over the top, and then grab a second white band. I'm going to move to the pin above, and again I'm going to be removing the bottom 2 bands. Flip to the other side. Again, I want to remove the bottom 2 bands. And then finally, back down, I'm removing the bottom 2 bands on the next pin over. And then once again, I'm going to push all of this down. And now I want to add a second layer of white bands over top of these same pins. So I'm going to be starting on this bottom left pin. I'm just going to work my way up in a zigzag pattern. I don't have to twist any in this level. And then I'm going to work my way back down. And now I want to remove just 1 band from the end pins, since there's only 2 bands on those pins. So grab that bottom one and pull it over. And now from these center pins, I'm removing the bottom 2 bands. And then again at the top, I just want to remove the bottom 1 band. Flip to the other side, and again I'm going to repeat 1 from the end, and then 2 from the center pins, and then 1 from the end. And again I have to push all of this down. And now I want to do 1 more layer using the length of these 4 pins again, and again it's going to be all white. So I'm going to start on this bottom left and just zigzag my way up. And then I'm going to work my way back down. And then again, I'm going to remove that bottom layer. And also I have just 1 on the end and 2 on the center, the same as last time. And then 1 on this end. Flip to the other side and do 1 on the end, 2 on the center, and then 1 from the end. And then I'm going to push all of this down again. You're always pushing it down because it's going to grow down through this open area. And now I'm going to start with the ears. So I'm going to switch to the red color. And for my band placement for the first ear, I'm going to go to the second pin from the end of the loom. I'm going to go up and diagonally to the right and twist. And then again, I'm going to go down and diagonally to the right and twist. It's going to be the length of these 3 pins. And then I'm going to switch to the pin above and work my way back down. Again, I need to twist that bottom layer. And then I'm coming back down again and twist. And now I'm going to do a second layer using these same pins. So I'm going to go up and diagonally to the right, and then down and diagonally to the right. I don't need to twist this layer, just the bottom. And now I'm going to go to the pin above and work my way back down. I'm going to push this down. And now I'm going to remove just 2 bands from only the center pins. So in the middle of this ear, I want to take the bottom 2 bands off and switch to the back side in just the center. again take the bottom 2 bands off. And now I'm going to again push this down. And now I want to add a 3rd layer using the length of these 3 pins. Just going to keep repeating this same up and down pattern. And now I'll work my way back. And now I'm going to again remove the bottom layer. This time I'm going to remove 1 from the end pin. You should have 3 bands on the ends. I'm just going to remove the bottom 1, and then 2 from the center, and then 1 from the end. Flip to the other side and repeat. 1 from the end, 2 from the center, and then 1 from the end. And push this down. Now that was our 3rd layer of bands. I'm going to do 1 more layer using the length of the 3 pins. So this will be my 4th layer. And then come back down. And again do that same pattern. I'm going to do 1 from the end and 2 from the center pins, and 1 from the end. Flip to the other side. I have 1 from the end, 2 from the center, and then 1 from the end again. And then I'm going to push all of this down. And now for my next layer, I'm going to start on this center pin of the ear, and I'm going to go up and diagonally to the right, and then I'm going to come back down and cross it. And then what I'm going to do is remove the bottom band from just those 4 pins. So I'm going to start in the center, remove this bottom band, go to the pin to the right, remove 1 from the bottom, flip to the back side, again removing just 1, and then moving down into the left, just the bottom 1. I'm going to push this down. And now what I want to do is take the bands on this end row of pins and move them in and to the right. So you should have 2 bands on both of these pins. I'm going to take both bands on my hook, make sure they both get on there, take them off and move them up and diagonally to the right, and place them right on the top. Do the same thing for the bands on the next pin above. Get both bands on that hook and move them up and diagonally, or down and diagonally to the right. And push these down. And then what I want to do is remove the bottom 2 bands on just those 2 pins to secure those bands in place. Do the same thing on this back side and push it down. And then I want to do another layer on these 4 pins. So I'm starting on the bottom left, going up to the right, and then I'm going to come back down and cross it. And then I want to remove just the bottom band from all 4 of these pins. So just 1 single band. And push this down. And then finally I'm going to take the bands on these 2 end pins and again move them in towards the right. So I'm going to grab these 2 bands on this bottom pin, but this time instead of going up and diagonally, I'm just going to move them in the same row up to the right. And then with these 2 on the back pin, I'm going to do the same thing, just move them to the pin to the right. I'm not doing diagonal this time. And then I'm going to again remove the bottom 2 bands to hold this in place. on both of the pins. And then I'm going to push this down. And I want to make sure that that ear is starting to go down through the opening. So I'm going to push this down. And that takes care of the first ear. And now we have to work on the second ear. So I'm going to move up, and I'm going to start where this white band is. I'm going to start on the next pin up to the right. I'm going to repeat the same pattern with the ear. I'm going to go up and diagonally to the right and twist, and then back down to the right and twist. Then I'm going to the pin above, and I'm going to cross back over these bands, always twisting this bottom layer, and push down. And now I want to put a second layer on, so I'm going to just work my way up and then back down. And now I want to remove the bottom two bands from just the center pins. Do the same thing on the other side. And push this down. Now I'm going to add another layer of red over this length of the same 3 pins and come back down. And now I want to remove the bottom layer, so I'm going to be doing 1 from the end and 2 from the center, and then back to 1. Repeat that again, 1, 2, and 1, and push all of this down. Now that was my third layer, so I'm going to do one more layer using those same pins. I'm going to go up and then back down. And then again, I'm going to be removing 1 from the end, 2 from the center, and then 1 from the end, and then repeat that pattern, 1, and then 2, and then 1. Again, push all of this down. And now for my next layer, I'm just going to be using these 4 pins. So I'm starting on this pin to the left and going up and diagonally to the right, and then I just want to come back down and cross that. And now I'll be removing the bottom band from just those 4 pins. So start on the bottom left and then move to the pin above, just 1. Flip to the back and just remove 1 from that pin, and then come back down and remove 1. Push that down. And then I want to take the bands on the 2 end pins and move them in. So again, you're going to have 2 bands on both of these pins. So you want to take both of these bands on your hook, move them down and diagonally to the left, put them right on the top, and then take the bands below and move them up and diagonally to the left. Put them on the top. And then we're going to be removing the bottom 2 bands from both of these pins to get that secure in place. And then push this down. And then we have one more layer to put on these 4 pins. So I'm just going to make the X. And then again, I'm going to be removing 1 band from the bottom of all of the pins. And then I'm going to push this down. And then finally, I'm going to take the bands on these end pins and move them in towards the center. So I'm going to take the 2 bands on the bottom pin, and this time I'm not going diagonal. I'm just moving straight up and to the left. And then on the back 2 bands, I'm moving them just straight up and to the left as well. Make sure they both make it on. And then I want to remove the bottom 2 bands to secure that in place on both of those pins. And then again, I'm going to push this down and get that ear to start making its way down through this open area. And then what I want to do is start with white again. I'm going to be starting on this pin all the way to the left. It is the 4th pin in from the left side of your loom. I'm going to go up and diagonally to the right and twist. This is what's going to attach the ears to the head. And you need to twist just this one because there's nothing underneath it. And then I'm going to just zigzag my way up using all white. And then again, I'm going to extend out to this pin with the ear on, and I need to twist just this end. And then I'm going to work my way back down. Again, twisting just the end, 1. And then I'm going to keep coming back down in that zigzag pattern. And then finally for this last band, again I'm twisting. And you want to push this down. And now it's time to remove the bottom layer. Now I'm not doing anything with the ears yet because there's only 1 band and I want to have 2 bands on to make it have a stronger connection. So I'm going to go to the pin above. I'm just going to remove 1 from this pin. And then for the center, I'm removing 2 from the bottom. And then 2 from the next. And then for the next one up, just 1. Again, I'm not doing anything with the ears yet. Flip to the other side and repeat. We had 1 on the end. And 2 for the next pin. And then 2. And then finally 1. And then I'm going to push this all down again. And now the next thing I'm going to do before I add my next layer of white is I'm going to put in 2 more red bands, and these are going to be for the eyes. So I want to go in the center 2 pins. So if you see where your ear is, if you count in 2 pins in, we're going to be using this pin, and we're going to take a red band and just place it on the pin to the center row. Go to the next pin above and do the same thing. Just put it straight back to that center row. And now I want to do my next layer of white. So I'm going to be starting on the left hand side. I'm going up and diagonally to the right. And now since I have the eyes here, I'm going to do something a little different. What I'm going to do is start on this pin here, and this time it's going to stretch diagonally to the right. It's a long stretch. It's going to stretch over these 2 red bands and go all the way to this pin. It would be the 1, 2, 3rd pin in from that row up. So you're just jumping over these 2 rows that have the red bands. And now I'm going to again continue on in that zigzag pattern and go up and diagonally to the right. And now when I work my way back down with white, I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to go to this pin below, go diagonally down and to the left. And now from here I'm going to stretch all the way across those red bands for the eyes. It's a long stretch, and get those bands in the center, and then from here I'm going back up and to the left again. And then the next thing that I want to do is take these red bands and move them forward. So I'm going to get this red band on my hook in that center row and just move it down to the pin below. And then again do the same thing for the next red band, move that to the pin below. And now I'm going to remove this bottom layer. So on the ends, what I want to do now is remove the bottom two red bands for the ears. I'm going to take both of them and pull them over the top. And for the next row, I'm going to remove the bottom two white bands. And then on the next ones where I have the two red bands, I'm going to take the two white bands and pull them over the top. And then again repeat that for the next eye. On the next one up, I'm removing the bottom two white bands. And then on the end, I have the two red bands for the ear. And I'm going to flip to the back side. I'll have the two red bands on the end. And then on the next pin, I will have two white bands. On this next pin, I'm doing nothing because I only have two white bands on here because of doing the eyes. And then on the next pin, the same thing. I don't want to do anything. On the next pin to the left, I'm removing two white bands from the bottom. And then finally, the two red ear bands at the end. And then I'm going to push all of this down. And then I'm going to add another layer. So I'm using white, and I'm starting on this pin on the bottom left. I'm just going to zigzag my way up to the top. Just repeating the same pattern that we've been using. And then I'm going to work my way back down. And then once again, I want to remove the bottom layer. So I'm going to remove one white from the end, and then two whites from the next pin. On this next pin up, I have the bottom two red bands for the eyes I'm going to be removing, and then the same thing for the next one. I have two white from the next pin to the right, and then one from the end. And flip to the other side. I'm doing one on the end, and then I'm doing two for all of the center pins. And then two for the next one, and then finally one at the end. And then again, I need to push all of this down. And it should be working its way down through the loom. If you want, you can take your hook and sort of help everything to come down through. You can see the ears. And the face should be coming down as well. And now I'm going to add my next layer of bands, but this time I'm going to not start on the bottom left, I'm going to move in one. So I'm just going to zigzag up, and then again I'm going to stop one short of the end because I want to narrow the top of the head. I'm going to work my way back. And then what I'm going to do is take these bands on the end and move them in. So I'm going to get these 2 bands on my hook, and this time I'm going to move them up, and again I'm not going diagonally, I'm just going to the right. Put them right on the top and make sure they both get on. And then for the back, do the same thing. Get those 2 bands on your hook and move them to the pin to the right. We're not going diagonal. And then we want to do the same thing for the other side. You're going to take the 2 bands on that center pin and move them into the left. Put them right on the top. And then the 2 bands on the lower pin are just going to move into the left as well and go right on the top. And now I want to remove the bottom layer, so I'm going to be removing 2 bands from the end pin, 2 bands from the next, and then 2 more on the next pin as well, and 2 from the end. And I'm going to work my way back down, removing 2 bands from all of the pins. And then 2 from the end here again. And then I'm going to push all of this down once again. And then I'm going to do one more layer using the length of these 4 pins. So I'm going to go up, and then I'm going to come back down. And then I'm going to again be removing 2 bands from all of the pins. So I have 2 from the end, and I'm just going to keep doing 2 bands. And then on the other side again, I'm just removing the bottom 2 bands. And then again, we're pushing all of this down. And now I want my head to narrow again. So I'm going to move into these 4 center pins. That's where I'm going to place my X. So I'm going to start on this bottom pin, go up and diagonally to the right, and then cross it. And now I want to again move the bands in from the end. So there should be 2 bands on this end pin. I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to go diagonal this time to the right. And then on this pin in the center, I'm going to take these 2 bands and go diagonally down and to the right. I'm going to repeat that for these bands on the other end. I'm taking the bottom 2 bands, well, it's the only 2 bands, and moving it diagonally down and to the left. And then I'm going to take the other 2 bands and move them diagonally up and to the left. And now at this point, if you look at your pins, there should actually be 5 bands on all 4 of these pins. So what we're going to do is remove the bottom 3 bands. So I'm just going to go over the top and take 3 bands from all of these pins. Flip to the other side, and again I'm removing the bottom 3 bands. And push this down. And now we want to take our dog off of the loom. So what we're going to do is start on the bottom left hand side. You should have 2 bands left on this pin, move it up and diagonally to the right, and then go to the pin to the right. Again, take these 2 bands and move them up and diagonally to the left, and then we're going to remove the bottom 2 bands from both of these pins. And then finally, I'm going to take these 2 bands, get them on my hook, make sure they're both on there, and go to the next pin over, get both of those bands on. So I should have 4 bands on now. I can take this off, and what I'm going to do is take a red band, and I'm going to slide it through these 4 bands, get it back on my hook and loop it through itself and pull it tight. It's going to be the top. And then here is my puppy charm. So as you can see, his ears are a little bit wild. They do stick out. I tried many times to make one that had more of a flatter ear, but I wasn't able to come up with anything too great. So I sort of think he looks cute with some wild ears. And so now for the black part of the eyes, what you want to do is, you can see the eyes that we put on look like little hearts. And what you want to do is take your hook and stick it through this heart, either like the center of the heart lower, or you could make it up a little higher, wherever you want to do it, or wherever you want the black to be. Stick it through to the back, and then get the black band on the hook and pull it forward. And that's going to be the little pupil of the eye. And then again, do the same thing for the other eye. Stick your hook back through to the back, grab that other end of the black band, and just pull it through to the front so it just sticks out a little bit. And then here is your puppy charm. Now if you think that his ears are sticking out a little bit too much and you want to tack his ears down, what you can do is take some clips or take some bands, and what I've done here on this one is I've just used a clip and attached it to the back of the ear and the back of the face on either side, and then that just makes his ears go down a little bit more. And then also, if you want to make a dog charm and you don't want to use these Valentine's colors, you can just use any other color you like. Here's another guy that I made using tan and brown bands, and then I used black for the nose and then black for the pupils. So there's a lot of options you can choose. So I hope you liked my puppy love video, and you can always go on YouTube and leave me comments, or go on my Facebook page and again leave me comments or post pictures of your creations. I'd love to see what you've made.